What do the recent events and happenings in the United States tell us about the role of the U.S. in Bible prophecy, especially in Revelation chapter 13, verse 17? From economic sanctions against the International Criminal Court and trade tariffs against other nations, to threats of military takeovers of the Panama Canal and Greenland, or the addition of Canada as a state to the U.S. and to withdrawal from the WHO, what do these events portend? Do we see how the prophecy regarding U.S. government's power to restrict people who disobey her laws from buying or selling, as stated in Revelation chapter 13, verse 17, is being fulfilled? Recent events in the U.S. are making many wonder what happened to its morals and its role as leader of the free world. Donald Trump has vowed to take Greenland by force from Denmark. He has vowed to take the Panama Canal by force and threatened making Canada a 51st state. He also spoke of America owning Gaza. He just slapped 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and 10% tariffs on China. Is this the action of a nation that champions freedom and liberty? America rose to global power by championing freedom, liberty, republicanism, democracy, human rights, freedom of speech, and constitutionalism. These attributes of freedom and respect for human rights are based on biblical Christianity that America was founded on by her pioneers. The pioneers, known as Pilgrim Fathers, who founded America were Protestants such as Methodists, Calvinists, Anglicans, Puritans, and Quakers who were fleeing religious persecution in Europe. They braved winter and storm, left behind their livelihoods, and came to an unknown land to start a new life. They established a nation of Bible-believing Christians and a safe haven for those persecuted in their home countries. Indeed, religious and political persecution were to a large extent stopped by the rise of America. Although religious persecution exists in communist and Arabic Islamic states, they are not present or common in democracies. The religious and moral attributes of America made it synonymous with the Messiah, a savior that saved the world from wars and tyranny. They fought in Europe and Asia to restore peace and democracy, bringing freedom to many oppressed souls. In fact, the fall of colonialism in Africa and Asia, as well as the collapse of most monarchies in exchange for a republican or democratic constitution and government, is mainly due to the American experiment and influence. The rise of America showed the world that a country can prosper without a king, and a church can flourish without a pope, that a country can govern itself through elected representatives. It is therefore not surprising that the rise of America is likened to a lamb, an animal that is only used for the Messiah, Jesus, the Savior of the world. In Revelation chapter 13, verse 11, America rises from the earth, an unpopulated area, with features of a lamb. With these features, it deceives the world to follow after its leadership and morality. The history of America and her role in spreading the doctrine and practice of constitutionalism and freedom to the world fits this lamb-like description in the Bible. Yet, it is later to speak as a dragon. The current events on the world stage, especially since the election of Donald Trump, show that the country that once used morality and equality in its dealings with other nations is now using force and threats. Just a few days ago, Trump placed economic and travel sanctions on Colombia and some elected officials because the president of Colombia refused to accept illegally deported immigrants from the United States. The economic and visa sanctions were only reversed after the president of Colombia accepted his deported citizens. Trump recently said that he has left instructions for the whole of Iran to be obliterated from the earth should the Iranian government assassinate him. The actions of the U.S. government in dethroning Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, Saddam Hussein of Iraq, fomenting coups d'etats and insurrections in different parts of the world through the CIA, or putting pressure on elected governments of other nations to accept or legalize LGBTQ, leaves little doubt that it is not the lamb it seemed to be, but a dragon in verity. The use of economic sanctions by the U.S. against people and institutions that go contrary to the U.S. interests are prophesied in the Bible in Revelation chapter 13, verse 17. Hence, the U.S. sanctions against Iran, North Korea, Russia, and other countries are all fulfillment of prophecy. Through such economic sanctions, where you cannot trade, buy, or sell, the U.S. will bully and force the world and governments to do its will and worship the first beast, the Antichrist. These actions will only get worse as we approach the end of time. The U.S. will continually speak and act like a dragon, Revelation chapter 13, verse 11, using force, threats, economic sanctions, and military power to bend the world to worship the first beast, papal Rome. These are signs of the times, and they show us how close we are to the end of times. May God help us to remain faithful to Him and His Word.